a little bit of a drive for you from Orem all the way up to Bountiful. I know that. Here, I'll close that down. That way you don't get stuck looking at ourselves. I'll sit there and stare at myself the whole time at every little movement I do.
So good.
So yeah, you're a singer-songwriter, Mel Soul. What originally got you into music? Was it something that just when you were younger you got into it, or is it more of a recent hobby, passion?
When I was in high school, I was really big into choirs. So I made the top choir in my senior year.
Oh, wow.
And after that year, it was kind of like deciding what I want to do now. And originally, I went to college to be an EMT. But with all the studies that I wanted to do, there was always music that was calling me back.
Right.
And so a couple of years in college, I realized it's not really my thing. It's not how I not how I grow. It's not how I felt I was growing.
Right.
So I decided to quit and just like start writing songs. Like, I thought about it, my first song.
Right.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to like put it out there, and my first song actually took me a year to write. But actually, after I did it and performed it, it was like a disaster. But like, there was just something about it. As a singer, I've always been a singer. There's something about that passion that I just wanted to continue down the road, despite, how I was feeling at the beginning. But as I grew and grew, I've gotten to a point where I've worked with a bunch of really cool songwriters, a bunch of them who've written some of the hits on country music. And,
really?
And some other... I worked with this one lady who worked with actually a songwriting group. And they wrote for a bunch of, like the early 2000 artists, like Rihanna and Avril Lavigne. Like she helped write Avril Lavigne's entire like first album.
Oh, wow! So she's like a well-known songwriter.
Yeah. So as I just kept going, I learned a little bit from each little conference thing that I've been to, and each person that is kind of a big title in the songwriting group, and it's just kind of been my passion.
That's awesome.
Ever since. So.
What was so you said when you first made your own song, what was the bad parts about it? Like, was it just trying to get the song out there that was difficult, or?
For me, it was actually finishing it. When I started writing it, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. But I got like to the end of the song, and I was like, I don't know what else I want to say here, and so I had to put it on hold because that year I actually was playing on a trip to Kenya, which I was going to be in for like a month.
Oh, wow.
So like I had to kind of put it on hold, and then once I came back, I realized, oh, okay, so whatever I got in Kenya was kind of like what I needed to put in the last part of the song.
Right.
So ever since I finished it, bunch of other songs would come in my head because like after you finish the first one, a bunch of other ones are a lot easier to write. So
how was Kenya?
It was intense.
Yeah.
But it was fulfilling in a lot of ways. I went and helped with a deaf school.
Oh, really?
So
wow.
Yeah.
Respect. That's awesome.
Thanks.
I mean that's a big thing to just go and do and take a month away, but you actually gained how you wanted to end the song from there?
Basically, yeah.
Just from the life experience in general, you were able to close it out?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what I wanted to say in the song, but like after I came back and everything I experienced, I was like, oh, okay, here's how I want to end it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never actually had the opportunity to like pick the mind of someone who writes music because there's such a vast diversity in music now. Like you have people who do EDM or rap and hip hop, country, soul music, everything in between, and everyone's brain clicks just a little bit different.
Yeah.
So when you sit down and you have like a song in mind, is it more of like this is the passion and emotion that I'm feeling right now, or do you take like a life event and try and condense it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it comes differently each time. Usually what happens is I'll have like a melody in my head or like a little verse of a lyric
Mm.
in my head that will just come randomly while I'm working or driving, and I'm just like, oh, that's really good. I gotta make sure I put that down somewhere, and like I'll have my little phone and just like record like ideas, like
Right.
a bunch of ideas, and sometimes it comes in like ideas where like I feel like nobody's written a song like this before, and so I'll write down kind of like an idea for a song in this notepad that I have in my phone. There's just like
Right,
tons
just a
of
whole bunch of different
lyrics.
ideas.
Yeah,
That's awesome
so,
though, because I
mhm.
mean, so I like to write comedy, like stand up and different things like that. I've only done very small performing or whatever, but it's interesting that because I have the same thing that happens to me sometimes. Like I'll
Nice.
be working, not thinking about anything, and then all of a sudden there's just boom, an idea, and I'm like, oh, I gotta write that down.
Yeah.
If I forget
Yeah.
about that, I'm gonna be so mad.
Mhm. Yep.
So what instrument did you start with originally?
Just acoustic guitar. I have one song on the piano, but like most of my songs I write from the guitar.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was it difficult to learn, or did you just kind of?
I had a teacher actually when I was 13 who
Mm.
taught me a little bit of like the basics, and then you had to move, and so I kind of went from the basics, to what I know now. It's not like a whole hell of a lot different
Right.
from like the beginning, but like it's kind of a start.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you've been playing instruments since you said 13 or before?
I did a little piano at 9,
Yeah.
but I didn't really finish it. Guitar's been the one that's been kind of consistent after high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to pick up music, but I think the problem for me at least is I don't understand how to read music.
Mm.
And I imagine if you knew how to read music, it might help. You could look at an instrument like, okay, well, this does this note, this does that note, and put it together. Is that?
That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah?
Honestly.
Oh.
Yeah. Reading music is like music math, and like sometimes math has been very difficult.
Oh.
It's not that I don't understand it for the most part, some of the basics, but like I did try and take a music theory class in college, and I realized that this is very intense.
Yeah.
It was funny because like I was learning, but I guess I was learning a little bit slower than some of the other students. And by the time we did our first test, I took a long time finishing the test, but it's because of like I was looking at what I would know logically on what the answers would be.
Right.
And so when I finally gave the teacher the test, she had no higher expectation for me at all. I gave it to her, and she looked over all the tests, and like I missed some of the basic ones, but out of all the test scores, like my test was the only one that got like the hardest question right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she's like, wow, you're an enigma. so I thought that was interesting. But yeah.
I think that's the cool thing about music, though, is, what might be basic knowledge for somebody might seem difficult, but then on the flip side, there could be a person who's been studying music theory forever who can't even understand, like, one concept that is so easy for someone else. Because it's just, I imagine a lot of it is experience, right? Like, what is your experience in music, and how can you look at a sheet and put it on there?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a realm that I don't know anything about.
yeah, it's it like with the music theory, it really just kind of add up like
Right.
an equation. Like, it's just so if you want to have like your own composition of something, you could give it to a well-trained musician and be like, hey, can you play this line, or
Right.
that's kind of basically what it's for. But you don't really necessarily have to dive into that to be really talented, like instrumentalist through like ear,
Right.
through like through other avenues of learning.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine too, like, I've seen videos of they call naturals who have never even looked at sheet music but can play a whole entire song.
Yeah.
And that's, everyone learns different.
Mhm.
So, I mean, having hands-on for some people, I imagine, is just vastly better than trying to sit there and like, okay, well, this means this means that. 'Cause that's, for me, that's why I struggle, because I took an intro to music class, and the teacher did his job, but I didn't feel like he was explaining what we were looking at. He just expected everyone to know. And I ended up failing that class
yeah.
because I was so far behind. I feel like I may have needed to take a different class, and they were doing all these different, having it be a certain scheme of music, and I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
that's the fun thing about music, though, is like you don't necessarily have to take it from a grade point level. Like you could just sort of dive in and create your own stuff, and like people are so worried about what other people will think because it's just such a heavy thing on them. But it's just like if you took that away, I feel like everybody has their own little story that they can create through music, and it's kind of a shame if somebody doesn't like experience it or at least try, because I feel like it's definitely worth it.
I agree 100%. I think that's well put, because if you're I see this in a lot of different avenues, not just music, but I feel like if you go into something with like an expectation of like fame or fortune or whatever it is that you desire, like 9 times out of 10 those people end up hating it. Where if you just go in and be you and genuinely be you, go and express your emotion, through music or through a podcast or whatever it might be, like it will come over time.
Yeah.
Because people love hearing the passion. They love seeing the passion. It's so easy to notice. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a big thing with it too.
Yeah. Some of the big guys that are already there, because they've been in, like, they've been paid big money and like been traveling a lot. They're kind of like at a point where, in order to make great stuff, they kind of have to do what they're told, and it's kind of a shame because like they don't sound as good as they did before when they just started breaking off. Yeah. So
I think that's the one thing that kind of sucks about any industry is once you get to the top, you become an asset. You're not. You're no longer like. I don't know who some of your favorite artists are. Are you country music mostly, or
just variety of kind of anything.
Like, I mean, if we put like, I don't know, who's someone that's popular that's kind of fallen off. I don't know, any artist, I guess. I won't say a name, but once they get to a point where they're making millions of dollars, everyone looks at them, and at least in the music industry, I imagine, is just a dollar sign. When in reality, like, he got there because he loved what he was doing.
Yeah. No.
And it does kind of suck because I've seen that with artists, like different bands, and I don't know if you know a lot about pop punk or different things like that, but you can see that heavy in that industry where a band will make all this kind of punky music and then they get popular, and now it's what's pop right now. Maroon 5, for example.
Yeah.
They used to make more kind of, I don't know what genre you'd even put them in originally. I guess alt, maybe?
I think it was like pop rock.
Yeah.
And then they switched to just
straight pop.
Pop.
Yeah. Only pop.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm not discrediting their music. It's still popular for a reason, but I think that it turns into what's going to get the most revenue for whatever the company they're working with, which sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the point in time, when do you want to make money for what you love?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's getting to a point, with like what's been going on with the virus and stuff, that's really difficult for musicians now to make a name. And I've debated kind of like going through how I've been feeling about music lately, and for the most part, for me, it's not just about surviving. It's about living. For me, music is about living instead of like, because music has really helped me get through a bunch of stuff that I've been through by writing it out and putting it in a song. I've been to a couple of songwriting events, and there's this one songwriter that I look up to a lot. Her name is Mary Gaucher. She talks about how when you put it in a song, like whatever you've been through, you play it enough and it just becomes a story. It doesn't become you anymore. So kind of a nice thing to release.
I imagine, because it would be very therapeutic, like, especially if you are writing about something that is emotional or, may have been a tough part of your life. If you write it out and you play it enough, I imagine it becomes, you've talked about it a lot,
Yeah.
basically. And
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that does relieve a lot of that built up, you know, emotional distress, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Has so I imagine with, you know, musicians, like there's a lot of people who take time off or take breaks and different things like that. Have you taken breaks between like when you were in college, or has it always been a constant like, okay, well I'll go do work and go to college, but I'm also still playing music on the side?
Ever since I've been kind of like taking part-time jobs, so I've been kind of seeing which jobs will kind of fit my hobby and which don't. I worked at the hospital in Provo for a
Mm-hmm.
long time, and I would have to like write in every time I had a gig, and it was like hell on earth
Oh
to like.
man.
And then like if I had a gig scheduled and then I forgot to write it in, it's just like no, this is the worst day. I had to figure out everything, but. I recently quit that job the beginning of the year, and I was almost to 2 years, but
Yeah.
it's fine. But after I quit, I got hired at this new job in Springville,
Mm.
but it's actually just like food, helping the chef at this little elementary school
Oh,
for
okay.
deaf and blind kids, and so
Oh, that's awesome.
and that one, like, it really helps with my schedule because it's just early, and I usually get gigs like at 6 or like later, depending
Right.
on where it is. So, like, it's just really nice to have a job that
Yeah,
works with
consistent.
me. It doesn't,
Well,
push
plus,
against me.
well, and plus, I imagine if you're still at the hospital right now during all the craziness, like that'd probably be difficult to get time off and kind of scary.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
it was, it was intense. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna put any like um, anything for sure out there, but like November through January, I was pretty sick
oh,
for like
really?
the entire time, and I would go into work and I'd have to like have my mask on, and
Mm-hmm.
at one point I did try and go in to the ER, see if anything was really wrong, because I really did have a hard time like breathing, because it was like I couldn't cough whatever's inside my lungs.
Hmm.
Um, I ended up not going to the ER because the insurance for some reason didn't go through, so I had to leave. But a bunch of my friends and other family members were like, we just went in there and they were just like, well, we can't do anything about it because it was viral. We don't really know what it is.
Right.
So, and but like later as like COVID got a big thing, and they described all the symptoms. I'm like,
Wait a minute.
I wouldn't be surprised if like that happened to me, But like I haven't got tested or anything, but
Right.
I'm not gonna put anything that's like for sure. But it's just kind of like,
Well, I've been hearing a lot about that as they've been coming out with articles saying like, if you were feeling this, and this from like February of last year
mm-hmm,
all the way until now, it's quite possible that you did have it.
mm-hmm,
And obviously, as we're seeing with like the more tests going out, the more positive they're coming in. But at the same time, like, how long have we actually been just at this rate?
yeah,
And we just didn't know because we weren't testing.
mm-hmm,
That's the thing that I kind of wonder. Either way, though, I mean, it is kind of a
yeah,
little scary.
yeah. And I always felt kind of bad like being sick in the hospital while
Right.
working there. It's just like, no, this is not good. But
So, what are some of the best gigs that you've done? Like, have you had like really awesome gigs, or is it kind of? Because I know, like, when I did a little bit of stand up, like, I've done twice now. One time, awful. I felt it was so bad. I went up there and everything that I said, no one laughed. And I'm like, okay, guys, thank you.
yeah,
And
that
then
takes balls, honestly. My self-confidence would just drop
yeah,
if that happened to me.
it was awkward. But and then the second time, like, it was great. People were laughing, having a good time, and I'm like,
Good.
sweet.
Yes.
Have you had like good and bad, or?
Yeah, so the bad ones are usually when like the sound equipment isn't working very well. And that actually happened at my last gig before COVID got shut down.
Really?
Yeah, just all of our sound stuff was just not working, and I had to be there for 3 hours. So it was a lot of fun.
Dang.
But I've had a couple of really cool gigs in my life. There's this one. Well, I did Pride Festival 2 years in a row. love those experiences.
Yeah.
And let's see, I did this one open mic actually, but it was a selected open mic, so we had to send in our stuff, and
Mm.
they had to let us know if we got in or not.
Right.
So that was at the Sandy Amphitheater, which is like huge amphitheater outside. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So does the audio or like do you sound different in amphitheaters? Because like I've heard that that's something that like the way that they set up the walls and everything, like it really can sound a little bit different.
Yeah. It really just depends on the sound guy.
Yeah.
However, if he really knows what he's doing, then yeah, I can sound really good. if not, then my voice is still there, but
Of course.
like I have met a couple of sound people who know how to like advance like my voice and what I like. So
yeah.
Yeah.
that whole side of things is interesting, is the whole audio engineering, because I don't want to discredit anyone who's famous, but there is a lot of people where it seems like they have some good audio engineers.
Yeah.
Because when they go live, you're like, ooh, is this the same person? Which is fine. Like, they still can make amazing music and their songwriting can be phenomenal. But I wonder if that's something that, like, does that frustrate, like singers? Like, people who have the ability? Or is it still kind of...
I've met some singers where if the person that does audio, if they've heard kind of like how they're doing it in advance, they won't even get up on stage.
Really?
Just because of how crappy the audio sounds. But for me, it's all about the audience and experience. And even if I do have like crappy sound, I'm still willing to just put in the time and hopefully get something out of it.
So is that why it's been difficult for you to grow? Because like I know that like streaming and different things like that, so it can be difficult and it's so flooded. It's a market where there's millions of people streaming nowadays.
I think the hardest thing for me and for most like musicians is actually the marketing side. Because like most of us are more so right-brained and like more prone to creating stuff than actually advertising stuff.
Absolutely.
And every big person has great marketers in their team, and that's kind of how they have grown.
Right.
And so sometimes it's hard for local musicians to really market themselves well, but there are some advantages. Like there are people that have done it successfully, that have written books, and so you're able to do it in like sort of a DIY sense.
Right.
But it does take time. It takes a lot of learning and patience, and sometimes you can't do it alone. And
of course.
So,
but I think that's one thing that's super important to even younger listeners is don't ever expect something overnight, because that's not the reality. We might see something on like Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever the hot thing is now, like you might see someone go from nothing to something overnight, but that is not something that you should expect to happen. The people who are really successful, we might see them now, millions of dollars later and travel the world, but you can't forget the years of blood, sweat, and tears that it took to get them to that point. And I think some people lose their passion because they think like, man, it's been a year and I'm still not famous. It's been 2 years and I'm still not famous. Like, it's not how it works. You really have to put in the time. And I imagine with COVID right now, like you said, if you can't get the gigs, you're very limited to how you can really spread, which is sad. But hopefully, I know that some places are kind of opening back up to like smaller audiences.
I did a gig a couple days ago, so that was nice.
That is good.
Yeah, the Park City Library.
Oh,
actually. Yeah.
How was it?
It was nice. It was a nice day, so it was outside, and people were able to just kind of enjoy themselves and was able to, provide background music. So it was nice.
That's the one thing that kind of excites me a lot about if, I don't want to say when, but if COVID, dissipates or whatever, becomes less of a worry, those like next 6-7 months are going to be so exciting for people because everyone is just chomping at the bits to go and listen to some live music and go to shows and different things. And think it's gonna be a really exciting time.
Yeah.
You know, you have to go through the bad and then you find the good type of mentality.
Yeah.
But
I think the idea about like the drive-through events that some people are doing, I think that's kind of like a cool
I like that
concept that people are trying to pick up.
Yeah, I saw one. It wasn't for music. It was down in what's the place, like Thanksgiving Point.
Cool.
They did like a drive-through, like I don't know. They did like a bunch of different lights and sculptures or something or the other, and I was like, oh, that's a cool. It didn't sound fun for me personally, but I was like, you could do a lot of different things with that,
Yeah.
and have it end up being like, I would love to go and do it like music thing where if you like every stop you roll down your windows and someone plays like a 5-10 minute set and then you go on to the next person, like that would be way cool.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I would go do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, definitely.
What is it that like I'm trying to think of how to word this question. It's like when you were 9 and you were getting into piano, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that something that you just that like called to you and you're like, that is something that like I want to do, or has music always been like in your family, or you know, and it just seemed so natural to want to go and do that?
My mom would play piano for church, and I used to go to church when I was a little girl. So,
Okay.
Yeah, she would play, and like when I didn't know how to play, like I would look at her like it was magic.
Right.
Like, what is she doing? Every time I would play the piano, it wouldn't sound that great. Yeah, that's kind of where it stemmed from.
So I've always wondered that because like everyone else, usually when someone gets into music at a young age, it's either like family had a lot of roots in music, or like maybe they found like a album when they were young and they were like, oh, I want to do that, you know. And it's always cool to hear different outlooks on why they took the step into music.
Yeah. I've always loved music, but I do remember a couple times when music used to scare me when I was a little girl. So this one time I was listening on the radio. I usually don't listen that much on the radio, especially when I was little. But there was this one song that came on that I just like, I was like, wow, this is a cool song. I love it so much. And I didn't want it to end. And then when it ended, I was just like heartbroken. I was like, oh my gosh, it's never coming back. And so like, because of that triggering thing, I was like, I should never turn on the radio. I don't ever want that to happen. Because if I want to listen to a song, I want to listen to it over and over and over till like, you know.
Right. So okay, that I have an interesting question with that. So since you write songs, do you make your own, like, I don't know what the word is for it, but you write the lyrics, but you also write like the riffs and sounds? I don't know what the word is. Like, melody, I guess you could say?
I'd say I'm pretty good at like figuring out melodies at this point, but on my guitar it's pretty basic chords. But like I have, you know, really good friends that have played guitar or other instruments that like to add stuff, and that usually like really enhances the sound.
So what I wanted to ask is, like, if you listen to like a song, do you try to avoid listening to music just because you don't want to necessarily take or like have someone else's like idea imprinted? Because I do that a lot. If I'm listening to like other podcasts, for example, I'll naturally like sit down and be like, oh yeah, let's talk about what they're talking about. And then I have to realize, like, well, I don't want to just take their opinion.
Yeah.
Because then it's just imprinted, even if I agree with them. Does that ever happen to you in music, where like you love something like a song a lot, and you like catch yourself like sounding like it, or not at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take like little ideas.
Yeah.
You know, especially like from lyrics that really hit me, but I try to like word it in my own way.
Right.
There's a couple of songs on one of Christina Aguilera's albums. She had this, it was kind of like a self-empowering song where, you know, oh, was that Stronger song? I forgot exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a line in there that I actually took from her, not necessarily like put it in the same way, but I actually put kind of like the same concept in one of my songs for the chorus, because I actually did it kind of like not really realizing it, but then when I look back, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of similar to her song. So
that's nice though, because like it's almost in a way like paying homage, to an artist that is fantastic. Obviously, and Christina Aguilera is top tier, and people don't realize that because they see like the couple pop songs, and forget that her voice is crazy. Do you have some like top favorites, like all time?
Like influence
Yeah,
musicians? Yeah. So 3 that I've wanted to like kind of stick to their styles because they have like similar styles that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Ed Sheeran, ZZ Ward, and Alison Krauss.
I don't think I know who ZZ Ward is.
ZZ Ward, she's like her sound is bluesy hip hop. She's really sultry, amazing. Yeah, you might want to look her up.
Yeah,
she's got some great stuff.
Yeah, Ed he's talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him a lot, and I like the fact that he's so diverse in his ability.
Mm-hmm.
He can remake a 90s hip-hop song and make it his own.
Yeah.
And then he can make a love song and you actually feel the passion. Then he can make a sad, emotional, heartbreak type of song. You can feel it. You're like, hit you right in the right in the feels.
Yeah. The thing that I like about Ed, I mean, his voice obviously and his talent, but it's just like he doesn't sort of look this Hollywood-esque look.
Right.
So it's just kind of nice to see somebody who's just like extremely talented and not necessarily like look like James Bond or something like that.
That's why I really like Sam Smith.
Yeah.
Because he was, I know that he went through a little bit of a transformation recently. It was good for him. He looks great. Like a Bell, and who's the new guy? Let me pull his name so I don't misquote it. I was just listening to the song yesterday. I know that it was very mainstream. Well, it got super mainstream recently. I want to say it's James something. Sorry, very unprofessional, but I always like to give people the credit when they talk about them. Going through. No, that. I wish I could sing because I would just sing the lyric, and it would probably come.
Do you know what the song is?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Louis Capaldi.
Okay, yeah.
Someone You Loved.
Yeah.
Like
he's
amazing.
Yeah.
And I loved it because I heard the song on the radio like a lot of people. I'm like, wow, that guy is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I went and watched a music video, and every single person in the comment section said the same thing. Like, I wasn't expecting him to look this way. Yeah. And it's kind of sad in a way. It really is, because I think we've almost gotten programmed to expect these people to look a certain way, when in reality, talent is, anyone can have talent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a bummer in a way.
Yeah. Then I think about kind of like not everything has to come from the media.
Right.
There's also talent that's just around you.
Absolutely.
That you can definitely appreciate, whether or not it's like huge or not.
No. I mean, I'm starting to realize as I get a little older that the people who have the true talent aren't the ones who are on Instagram all day or, making the next hot tweet or whatever it might be. It's the ones who are out there, on the streets and, grinding away and, trying to make a name for themselves. They're the ones who, will blow you away. Like, I remember I went and saw Alicia Cara downtown, like a year or two before Here got really popular.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was just sitting there, like, I got the chills, like, listening to her. I'm like, oh my God, like, her voice is crazy. And next thing you know, big, huge hit. But I don't know. I truly have the mindset of, like, it could be any day for anybody, right?
Yeah,
like,
basically, yeah.
I could do the next episode of this, and then who knows?
Yeah.
The next song could be the big one. And
Yeah.
I think people just fall off that and think like, oh, well, it should have been that one, should have been this one, and then they stop giving themselves the opportunity,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which sucks.
Yep.
Would you like to play something? Because
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
I've been waiting.
Let's see.
I don't know. For people listening, I've never had live music on
That
here,
was good.
so I hope that it sounds good.
Cool. I'm gonna sing a song. I actually wrote it about my hometown in Orem, and it's called 801. So it's called
Awesome.
my family. So, I come from the mountains, still frosty with snow. In the summertime weather, shining down below. Right next to the pine trees is my backyard. Little girl and her mother making a new start, and it wasn't that long ago when I first dialed a phone, so that I learned how to call home. 801, 801, 801, that's where I'm from. 801, 801, 801's where I belong. That's where I belong. By that fireplace when Christmas falls, you can see my grandma deck the halls, and hear my baby cousin's footsteps whisper through these walls. By that front porch, Grandpa's truck would stand at the treehouse he made with his own two hands. On Sundays, Mom would play piano to the church that was next door. Oh, and it was all so much more than just an area code. 801, 801, 801, that's where I'm from. 801, 801, 801's where I belong. That's where I belong. 22 years later, I'm in LA. Get a call from Mama, and I know what she'll say. Grandpa's on his deathbed, and we need you here. Can't do this alone since everyone disappeared. Took the next plane out, and I made it just in time. Took a hold of his hand, and I said my last goodbyes, and it wasn't that long ago when you first dialed the phone. You taught me how to call home. 801, 801, 801, that's where I'm from. 801, 801, 801's where I belong. where I belong. It's where he belongs. It's where we belong. 801.
Wow.
Thanks.
That was. I haven't listened to live music in a while.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
that was phenomenal. I mean, you told a. That's what blows my mind is you just told a whole story in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was blew me away.
That's good. Thank you.
How long does it take you to write something like that? Because it flows so great. Like,
Yeah, that one didn't take me very long.
No?
So just kind of depends on what song. That one took like a couple minutes.
Really?
Just yeah.
Wow. Talent.
Thank you.
Talent.
Thanks.
Have you done like I don't know how like I don't know all the terminologies, but like do you release music like on a CD or like you did Spotify and whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done like a hard copy of something, or is that
I do-
even worth it?
I do actually have CD right
Yeah?
now. Yeah. I have my first EP. Got a handful of copies. Just if I ever want to sell something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have my stuff online, and I do have just my one first EP right now. Working on a new one, so I'll be able to have hard copies later for that one.
That's exciting.
It's always nice to just have it just in case. Whether or not people use it, but
Well, still, I mean,
yeah.
do you have one with you by
I
chance?
do actually. Yeah.
May I?
Yes.
I will Venmo you whatever it takes because like
Yeah.
I would love to hear
No worries.
more.
Yeah.
And I'll keep it here, the case and whatnot, so that way people can, if they come over, they'll see it.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Right there. So, there you go.
Oh, wow. That's a great cover too. Great picture. How long does it? So, what is the process of like making a CD?
I actually did move to Nashville for a couple months. So I wanted to have, something to give people,
Right.
if anybody was interested and stuff. So it actually took about 2 years to make the songs, and then to get it done, it could have took longer, but I really just kind of wanted to have something ready. And
Right.
my engineer was kind of like, no, I want to perfect all these little things. I'm like, no, but I'm leaving in 3 months. I need to have it done now. So it took that whole summer, basically just to get them ready. I had to send in to this company to have them mailed to me. And that was grueling. Just to wait for the product to get here. But yeah, it's kind of a long process, but basically when you have all of the songs done, the multiple avenues you can send in for an actual product.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, let's talk about Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's Music City of America, right?
Yeah.
How was it?
It was, it could have been better.
Okay.
It's funny because I went there expecting to lose, but I didn't expect to lose in the way that I did. I went there and I thought I had all these people that were willing to reach out to me, help me out, and basically when I got there, when I got all moved in, nobody really reached out to me. So I was kind of on my own for a bunch of months.
Yeah.
Finally found a place that kind of like an open mic. I don't know if you've been to Greenhouse open mic here.
I've
They
heard
used
of
to have it. Yeah. I went there for years, and that's kind of how I developed my confidence in order to make songs, just by going to that open mic.
Right.
I found something a little similar to that in area in Tennessee called Franklin, and it was similar to that open mic experience, except it was a lot more southern.
Right.
There's a lot more born again Christians there. I was just like, okay. You know? It was really interesting to get to know some of the people, and for a while it was good. I got to know people. I wrote songs with uh, some of the people there, and um, it was nice. And the more I would go there, I met somebody who was like basically my next relationship,
Mm,
and I've never been in a relationship before that one, so I didn't really know what things went.
right.
And basically, it just kind of like ever since I met him, it just went to crap.
Oh,
And
dang.
it was actually like it was a pretty intense, traumatic event. Like actually being in that relationship, and it gave me like a sour taste for just that whole experience,
Right.
because I felt like I put a lot of stuff on hold because I was in that relationship, and when it ended, it was just so bad, that how like when you have exes, it's nice to like every now and then, see them and stuff. It's just like for him, it was my case because it was just so bad that I had to like legally have him not
Mm,
around anymore. And
right.
so I couldn't deal with the stress of like uh, the idea of him, coming out of jail and me like worrying,
Oh,
all by
wow.
myself. So I basically had to move back home. And it was like the most grueling, sad experience, just like driving all the way from Tennessee to Utah. Um, and it took me a little bit, you know, to actually write music again, just because I wasn't sure if I would get to a point where I was like happy with myself or like just okay in general.
Right.
But I gave myself a bunch of time just to like chill out and heal, and that was actually when my music really picked up. That was when I
Mm,
got a lot more successful, when I gave myself some time, started writing again, and when I went to different avenues home that I haven't been through before. That's when I made new friends and new contacts, and I was a lot more successful after that. So
I condemn you for not giving up because, I
yeah.
mean, you know, it seems like some people, like, when they go through grueling, traumatic experiences, they end up living by that for the rest of their lives. And, it's nice to hear that, you're able to get back to a point where you felt comfortable making music again. And I think that
Hmm.
the world needs to hear your music. I
Yeah.
mean, I was just moved by a song that you said took minutes to make,
Yeah.
so I mean, I can only imagine it's a roller coaster that will go up for you now. I mean,
Yeah.
the more that, and obviously once we can go out and actively do more shows and be in the community more, hopefully that will allow for even more success.
Hmm. Yeah.
Has it been like, as far as like Utah compared to Nashville, like, is, whenever you talk about Nashville, right, you immediately just think music.
Uh-huh.
Is Utah's music scene pretty great? Because I mean, I've been involved in like some of the communities, I guess you could say. Some of it's toxic, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And some of
I've
it's,
had to go through a lot of that too.
yeah, and some of it's
Oh,
rough, and some of there's seems to always be drama, and I don't know if that's just like people want to bully people out of the system or what it might be, but like,
you can always tell when you work with people, like who's just in it for the good stuff and who's not. Yeah,
man,
the more you get to know them.
man,
That's what it's like for me anyway. I've gone through enough red flag people that I kind of see in advance kind of who those people are. I just kind of stay a distance from them. um, the thing about Nashville, places like Nashville, LA, Atlanta, some of the places that are kind of known for big top people, is you hardly get people that are bad.
mm,
So the difference between like some of the open mics here, some of the open mics over in Tennessee, is like the open mics in Tennessee, you have a plethora of great musicians that will get up there, and then you have one or two that are just like okay, but like
right,
here it's like you every now and then get like really good ones, and then like you get a bunch of them. They're just like, okay,
Yeah.
that wasn't bad, but
Right, I know what you mean.
yeah.
That
Uh,
happened to me with sports.
mm,
I played sports growing up, and I actually like I went to Texas for a job, and this was like I can't remember what year, but we were just playing. Like I would play basketball casually every week, and I'm not by any means good, but locally, like some of the local parks here in Bountiful, like I'd go with friends and we'd do really well. Like me and two of my really talented basketball player friends went out to Texas, and we proceeded to get beat by junior high kids
uh,
all afternoon.
well,
Like they were just the talent level was vastly different than what's out here.
yeah.
And I imagine that's with a lot of areas. I mean, not only more population but more passion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because Utah, I've had some rappers on, I've had some singers on. You know, not no discredit to anyone that's been on, but I think that you've taken the cake with
Oh,
talent.
thanks.
But it just seems like Utah has never developed its own sound.
There's a lot of people I've met that really want to put Utah on the map
Mm-hmm.
because even if it's not like a consistent thing with Utah, there's a lot of passionate people out
Yes.
here that just love music and they don't want to give it up and they don't want to give up where they live either.
Right.
And I've noticed that when I came back home, I'm just like, wow, I really do love where I am now. Even though I didn't before, but when I came back, I'm like, wow, I love my home because I get it. I know people, In the South, it's like there are places I'm not sure I'm okay, and there are places that I'm just like, okay, I think this is fine. But like in Utah, I'm just like, okay, even though this is like the whitest city in the entire state, I know nobody's gonna come after me.
Right. True.
So,
I had the same thing when I left Utah. And I really started realizing how good Utah actually is for a lot of things.
mm,
And that's a vast majority of things in all honesty. And when I came back I was like, I don't know if I will end up
yeah,
uprooting fully from here ever. I mean, there's Utah is so we could go 20 minutes north and we could be in farmland, right?
right,
And we could go 10 minutes south and we could be in hipster nation,
no,
the next big hipster capital of the world. It's just so pick your poison. What do you want to do today? Do you want to go milk some cows?
Yeah.
Do you want to go eat some herbal tea? It's cool to have that variety, and I don't know how many states can say that.
That's true. Yeah, not to like discredit anybody else who's lived here, who's a minority, but like for me, since I've grown up here, since I was a baby, like it's just what I know. It's what I feel comfortable with, and
Right.
it's home to me. Just
Yeah.
with no matter what
Yeah.
comes with it. So
Yeah, and I don't. It's hard for me to speak on anything, but I definitely, in the little bits of time that I lived in Texas, I saw a lot of things that I wish I hadn't seen
Yeah.
that made me really my level of love for humanity sank.
yeah,
And you still see it here in Utah and different things, and it's sad, but I do think that there are some other states that could really look at a place like Utah and be like, maybe we need to change a couple things.
yeah. It's funny because like in the South, like I feel like I'm really energy like sensitive, so like you can feel the leftover energy of like those rules and how it was, and you
Right.
can sense it in people, like their discomfort and like both,
Right.
black and white, and it's hard, for me to like absorb that and
Right.
understand kind of like where my place is, like where I feel safe and where I don't feel safe. And that's the thing about home is like you get a handful of like really bad people,
Of course.
just anywhere. But in general, I don't feel like in fear of my life in most places
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah, and I mean, I don't. I mean, obviously, being a big white dude in Utah is fairly common, and I I get looks sometimes because like facial hair, I wear you know hats with Ouija boards on it and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But even still, like in most places I go, people seem to genuinely just want to do their own thing and be nice.
Yeah.
At least here in Utah,
Hmm.
I went when I was out in Texas. I was called a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I don't want to discredit Texas. Texas is beautiful. There's lots of awesome in Texas, and I'm sure where I was, it was just bad place, right?
Hmm.
People are rough. People are really rough,
Yeah.
and I just I'm a person that I really genuinely just like knowing people. I like to get to know people because perspective in life is everything, right? Like, this person might feel this way. Well, why do they feel this way? I need to know how and why. Like, what can I do to make them not feel this way?
Hmm.
And the only way to do that is communication.
Yeah.
To hear their perspective, to have them have a place where we can come and talk and, air things out. But, I'm sure a place like Nashville, probably tough.
Yeah.
Probably tough. Have you been to LA then?
I have been to LA a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not really my scene.
Yeah.
Down there. I've had a couple of experiences like with workshops and stuff down there. So it's nice to kind of develop your craft wherever you're at and learn from people who are succeeding. But I feel like there's this level that LA expects, and it's not just with music, but it's with the whole package. So it's easy to be discredited if you don't have like the whole package.
Right, I get what
just
you're
because
saying.
it's LA.
Right.
And even if you do, sometimes there are people that just kind of like take their time. LA has this like reputation for slacking off a bit because everybody's like partying and like
Right, it's LA. Everyone,
yeah.
all the big people are in LA, so it's time to, let's go out, let's go do this, let's go see who we can meet. Like,
yeah. So that's kind of been my experience in LA with people I know there, but it's not a bad place if you want to try it out. But I think there's a lot of people that take advantage of the fact that it is kind of like Talent City, and so you get a lot of people who try to take advantage of young innocent artists.
Right.
So that's a shame.
It is a shame. It sucks too that I don't know. I would probably be very disgusted to know, even financially, how bad people have been taken advantage of in LA. I don't want to just say LA in general, but just artists in general, because like we were saying earlier, like you get to a point where you're an asset to somebody, or someone looks at you and can see dollar signs and how they are going to use you to get their dollar signs. I imagine that comes with agencies and gig promoters and different things like that. I mean, you hear the awful, but I imagine that there's a constant level of people just kind of getting shit on, for a better lack of terms.
Yeah, basically.
Which sucks.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not just in LA, but it's also everywhere else.
Right.
I did work for a label for a little bit just to see how it would work out. It was branded as a local label, know. And for the first couple months, we felt comfortable working with this guy, and then later on, after we released our first song, he was in communication when we were releasing it, but like as time went on, he wasn't in the best communication with us, and so out of the blue, he just basically dropped us from the label for like no credible reasons whatsoever. And unfortunately, we did pay him a lot of money because he promised all these things, and like as an artist, you don't want to go through that, and you hope and pray that like you don't waste your time or your money. But unfortunately, that happens sometimes.
Right.
And, but it does. I thought to myself before I dove into it, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it, and if it doesn't work out, then I learned something. So,
right.
That was basically my approach to it, and I did learn a bunch of things.
It does suck when you have to learn through something like that, but I guess now if you decide to go down that avenue again, you can at least pinpoint the things that seem shady.
Yeah.
And
I thought it would credit me, and it did kind of give me a little bit of confidence to be listed on a label as an artist, and I thought that was kind of like the big goal. But when I went through it, I realized there were a bunch of things that we couldn't do, but we didn't know until he told us. He's like, hey, you can't post that. Or like, hey, you can't use that hashtag. Or just there was a bunch of set of rules that he said that we couldn't do, but he never explained to us why we couldn't do it. And it was just very much a lot of miscommunication stuff. And now I kind of know what red flags to look for if people do get approached like that from, any kind of so-called local label. And now I know that doing it on my own is gonna result in a better avenue product for people.
Absolutely.
And for me.
So I generally listen to rap and hip hop and R&B and soul. It's kind of where my fandom is, I guess you could say. A little metal and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's so rare, at least in rap and hip hop, for people to make it without being a label, right? You have people like, I think Anderson .Paak did it, and the really popular gentleman, I can't remember his name, Cocoa Butter Kisses, that's one of the songs.
Oh, nice.
Jeez, what was his name? Anyways, his whole I don't want to say his claim to fame, but he made it huge without ever signing to a label.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Is it just because the labels, if it's a legit label and they really want to make you the next big thing, it's just such an easier route if you can get that compared to trying to just grind on your own?
Yeah. I feel like when you're at a point at a talent level and you have a lot of people in your corner, this is kind of by assumption, but I'm kind of assuming that when things kind of fall into place, it will just be easy, and that will be the direction to go. I feel like that's kind of probably what happened to Anderson. Right. But anytime you're with a label, they do have certain rules that you need to follow in order to be with them. And I remember when the one label I was working with, when he talked about kind of what he did when he worked with his own label, through somebody else. They gave him a certain amount of money, and he thought he was the richest guy in the world, but then all that money is spent the stuff that they gave him. So hotels, travel, equipment, even though they pay you, it's not really going to you, it's going towards all the stuff that you're doing.
Right.
So, and if they continue to pay you, you have to abide with whatever their rules are with the label. So it gives you kind of less freedom with what you want to do as an artist.
I think too that, at least from what I've perceived being a fan of music, is when people sign with a big label and then they get required to drop albums. Mm-hmm. They have to come out with an album on every other year type of basis. And for me, that seems to be what kills a lot of, I don't know how to put it. It's not that they're not talented anymore, but they're not doing it for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think you can tell that in the music, which is a bummer. Mm-hmm. And I wonder I get everyone has to make their dollar when you become that type of artist, but at the same time, wouldn't you just want them to have the creative freedom to keep making the music that made them popular?
Yeah. That's why I kind of, when I look at two sides of the coin, when I feel if I do ever get to that point, I look at it, I'm would I even want it? Because if I'm at that point, then I'm not able to create in a space that I'd want to create because I'd have all these limits.
Right.
And I've noticed that with some artists where every song that they put out kind of talks about the same thing. I'm kind of wondering if the label is telling them, you need to write about this stuff because this stuff will sell.
Right.
You know, so.
And I guess it comes back to, right, like, you know, happiness is subjective. Yeah. You know, what would make you happy might not make, you know, this person happy. You know, that 7-figure contract might make them super happy compared to, I mean, for me, like, people always ask me, like, what's my end goal for the podcast? In reality, I don't want money. Like, I mean, sure, right? If I could make money doing something I love doing, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
I just want people to be involved. I want to have a community where, you know, people could come on and talk and have people back them and be like, yeah, let's help them improve.
Yeah.
That's what I want, because I think that at the end of the day, you know, money comes and goes. We can make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing something, but are we still going to be happy?
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I think if I was an artist, I'd rather just be touring and going and meeting people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people. It seems like that's a lot of desire because everyone always goes on tour, but I know that's also good money.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That was my goal actually for this year before COVID hit. I work with a drummer every now and then, and our goal is to go on tour.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like with all the COVID stuff that's been going on, we haven't been able to, like, you know, get stuff together in order to make an actual tour.
Right.
But I mean, I'm still hopeful in the future that will happen.
Absolutely.
Just because of like how much I love my passion and how I've had a bunch of people, you know, from random places that are just like, hey, why don't you come out here? And I'm just like, yeah, I would love to. Once I get to that point, I will. So, but yeah.
That's cool though. And I think too, like, we've talked about the negative side of it, but the positive side is there's a lot of people who just love music and love having new artists around. And, you know, I imagine you've met amazing people going through it. And, you know, I've met a lot of amazing people just in this room. So, I mean, I can imagine when there's actually passionate people behind, you know, setting up gigs and, you know, bringing in new artists, that it's a great feeling.
Yeah. You
know, which hopefully there's more of that instead of the negative.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm sure it's just harder to find.
Yeah.
You want to be around it's better to be around the passionate people, but the hard part is usually they have a lot of people already around them, which sucks. But,
yeah.
do you want to play another song?
Sure, yeah.
If you'd like. Just so I can make sure, how late did you want to?
However.
Okay.
I have the whole day open.
Perfect.
So, this next song is kind of a favorite. A bunch of my friends like. So I usually don't. Well, I want to write more bluesy stuff, but this is kind of like my first bluesy one that I ever wrote. When I wrote it, it was almost like. Sometimes I feel like my songs don't really come from me. They come from something else.
Okay.
Like, just kind of like spiritual wise.
Yeah.
So when I wrote it, it's almost like it wasn't me writing it. It was like some other famous blues person that's like done it before. I wanted to write a song. There's like a lot of songs that talk about like being the bad girl is like the thing, you know?
Right.
Because like the bad girls gets all the boys and like... And it's just like, I've never really been that person. And I wanted to write a song about like just a good good lady, you know, that like goes by the rules and is not necessarily so glamorous, but like is a good woman.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the title came from. And so yeah, the song's called Good Woman.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Listen, baby, I know that you're searching for fire. All of them feels you see in the movies, way that we were starting now. After some time, you know love has got to change. Getting routine, all the groceries and things. Making love is no longer a game. How can I get this through your thick head? Fire's not the only reason we wait. 'Cause I'm not perfect like them girls in the magazine. I'm a good woman, baby, that's all that you need. Never not real with you, my loyalty is clean. 'Cause I'm a good woman, baby, that's all that you need. Oh. Go ahead now. So you think you can find something better than what you already got? But tell me one thing, baby. Can anybody else stand your mom? I may be fussy, stomp on your ego from time to time. Boy, there ain't no other woman in the world knows your fetishes and still likes you alright. I'm not perfect like them girls in the magazines. I'm a good woman, baby, that's all that you need. Never not real with you, my loyalty is clean. 'Cause I'm a good woman, baby, that's all that you need. Go ahead now, 'cause I can't make you stay. Tell me one thing, out of all the good women in the world, do you want to know another's crazy? You already know my crazy, and I'll tell you one more time. I'm not perfect like them girls in the magazines. And I'm a good woman, baby, that's all that you need. Never not real with you, my loyalty is clean. That means I don't cheat. 'Cause I'm a good woman, baby, that's all that you need. I'm all that you need.
I'm blown away that you like your ability to make two songs that don't sound like the same at all.
Yeah.
Like they're vastly different. Like I don't know what word it is. Like the range, I guess you could say. Because like it's impressive. It really is. Because like there's a lot of artists who are so one-dimensional, but you just played two songs that are by far on different graphs.
Yeah.
Is it? I can't just say how, but is that like something that takes a lot of time to figure out, or do you just have that in your head that you can just switch almost?
Well, I was kind of learning a couple new chords, a couple blues chords through just like watching YouTube tutorials. And I did kind of figure out a cover from those chords. And after I figured out that cover, I was like, oh, I might as well write a song from like this style.
Right.
See how it goes. And that's kind of, like I said, like I feel like it was almost like I didn't write that song. Like somebody else like came into my head and like wrote it for me. So yeah.
It's definitely good.
Thank you.
So do you like writing like? Do you see yourself writing more bluesy type music, or do you see yourself sticking with the first song that you played?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to. People say it's kind of like a mistake to venture into different genres. I mean, most of my stuff really sounds like the first song. It's more so folk indie-ish sounding. But for me, it's a lot of fun to like, experience different kind of genres. Well, I've been hearing from producers, like, they're just like, yeah, you can sing anything, but like pick one So
Right.
I'm just like, well, I don't want to pick one. Like, it's fun to like have different ones. I did the first hit that I put out on Spotify is actually not really a folk sounding song. It's more so popish sounding.
Okay.
Because I wrote it with two of my other friends who rap, and so it feels more R&B popish
Okay.
when you listen to it.
Is that on here or is that just on Spotify?
It's on Spotify
Okay.
right now. So
And if people want to search for your Spotify, what do they have to look at?
it's Mel Soul.
Mel Soul.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, obviously do the right thing.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
So I mean that's cool too that you'll take on people who are in vastly different genres because we're seeing that big time on radio hits, right? Like, what was that Havana song?
Yeah.
Whether people like it or not, it's interesting to have a song like that that's very kind of poppy with like a interesting kind of like
Latin vibe.
yeah Latin vibe, but then it also has a rapper on it.
Yeah.
And whether his verse was needed or not, who knows? But you see that with Katy Perry and Kanye, or gosh, I mean, kind of a lot of R&B songs now have like a rap in it at some point. I think that's just kind of starting to become the norm.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, rap has definitely, I think, gotten a lot bigger than people ever expected it to be.
Oh yeah.
Which is.
I feel like it's kind of been a steady pace of like people still love it and people still come back to it.
Yeah.
Because it's so real, for the most part.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing about rap, right? Is you can listen to one album that has a huge message, and then I can flip on a different album and it's going to be, party music. Yeah, tits and ass, getting drunk, smoking weed. Like it's interesting that both sides of it are so vastly popular and so different. Because like I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan because I like the message that he's trying to say, and I think his mind's more brilliant than people are even realizing now.
Yeah.
But then again, like I'll listen to A$AP Rocky when I just want to have some music on in the background that's fun. It's so interesting, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not one to speak, but I would enjoy an album that has diversity on it.
That's kind of what I'm trying to do my next EP. So like I'm working with different types of genres with people. First one's a little bit more folk, which I'm used to. It's got a guy who does a guitar solo on it that has more of a country feel.
Okay.
So a little mix of that, and I have another song it's got guitar in it, but it definitely has this hip hop feel.
Yeah.
Because I produced it, and then my friend was like, I really want to rap on this song. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we got it done, and it turned out a lot better than I thought it would be. So that has more like a hip hop feel, and I'm gonna work with my friend on a new song for the EP. He has his style is like 70s bands.
Oh, okay.
Like that's kind of his style of writing, and I wanted to approach him with like a salsa-ish song.
Ooh.
See if we can create something that would be sounding different, and then have like another rapper on that song.
Right.
Who's not used to rapping on that genre, but I just really want to challenge him just to see like what you can do.
What's his name if you want to shout him out?
So the guy that I'm gonna write with, his name is Rick Gerber. He plays with a band called Bad Feather.
Okay.
They do a bunch of shows in Utah and then outside of Utah. I just saw them actually at Lava Hot Springs.
Oh, really?
Me and my girls went out and see him, and every time I go to shows, he always has me go up for like their break and play music.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then my friend who I'm planning on having rap on that song, he goes by Airworthy, but his like rap group band name is called Proverocity.
Okay.
And they're kind of like local Utah County rap group.
Awesome.
But he's really talented.
Yeah.
If you want to like look him up later, like his some of his songs just.
Do you know if it's
so
also
fast.
on Spotify?
Yeah.
I'm gonna add it so that way I can put it. I mean, I always go back and listen to these and clip stuff too, and so I will make sure to get everyone's links if I can in the description so people can make sure that if they want to check something out. How do you spell it?
Airworthy, the rapper? Is that
Yeah.
yeah.
Just how it's.
Yeah, just
Maybe if Spotify wants to work. Okay. It is cool that. I don't know. I like that you work with people because I think that, some artists, and I don't know if this is just the artist mentality, but they just stay themselves, and push away people. And
you have artists like that, but like I feel like in general, with some of the people I feel comfortable with, that I trust, like the artists that I know, that really do it for their passion. It's like all of us are kind of encouraging all of us together,
right.
to make it wherever it is that we want to go, like just to keep pushing and go there. And that's the cool thing about Utah is like, even though there's a lot of really good artists in Nashville, I don't feel that in Nashville there's enough heart with people, just because of how common it is now in Nashville to have just really good talent. I feel like when you get to that point, when you get noticed, it's almost like kind of take it for granted. It's like there's a bunch of artists out here in Utah who not only have talent, but they have like this heart and this passion for like connecting with people, and just for not giving up on themselves or other artists. And those are kind of the people that I try to surround myself with what I love to do. And so.
Well, right. I mean, the whole idea too is, if you have a community of people around you who are all trying to reach the same, whatever the goal might be, right? If someone does get it and there truly is like that community feeling, like, hopefully they would help.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think that anyone who does make it owes people anything.
Yeah.
It's like if they put in the hard work, they put in the hard work. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like,
be nice to be like, hey, I know that guy.
Right. One helping hand can change, your whole entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It could go from, this person made it and they come like, hey, why don't you tour with me or whatever it might be, and that could change your whole life.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot in different fields, and it's really cool. Like when big artists come in, they try and, grab some locals and be like, hey, go for it.
Yeah.
Do your best, try it. And I see that on Twitch. Which is what we're streaming on.
Oh, cool.
There was a poker player, random.
That's cool.
He came in and watched or saw us streaming one night, and he did what's called hosting, and he took his 1,200 people that were watching him and brought them over to us.
Oh, nice.
Just didn't say why, didn't give us a reason. I remember he typed in chat. He's like, "Hey, good luck." And just left us with all these people, and
cool.
He didn't have to do that. We didn't ask him to do that, but that little small thing that took him 2 minutes to type, maybe, changed a whole bunch of stuff for us.
Yeah,
we still have regulars who come in from that stream, and we'll talk and hang out,
nice.
And it's, I think, and I almost wonder sometimes if people don't realize how impactful moments like that are, and they're just so genuinely good, they're good souled people that they do things like that, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever, and they forget too, they're like, that meant a lot to us.
Yeah.
Just that small little thing.
Yeah.
But imagine the same thing in the music world. Imagine a small step in any direction with the help of someone is huge.
Yeah. It does.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
So tell me, outside of music, what do you like to do? Are you music mindset all the time, or do you have other things that you like to get involved in? I know that's a tough question. I'm sorry.
It is a tough question. I think people have asked me that a bunch of times, and I'm just like, I don't know. I think, well, I have a huge love for just weird stuff.
Yeah.
I love astrology, and I love just any
thing that's not the norm.
Yeah, anything that's just not normal. I love paranormal stuff. And, I also enjoy just being in environments like New Age shops. And
Yeah.
maybe getting like a psychic reading here and there.
Yeah,
and,
tarot cards.
Yeah, it's just, I love that stuff.
Well, let's talk paranormal. Because when we started the podcast, our backbone was paranormal.
Cool.
Like, we used to ask every guest that came on, like, have you ever had a paranormal experience? So I'll ask you that. Like, where do you sit on the fence of what is paranormal?
I mean, I feel like it's not really as complicated as people want to make it out. Like, I feel like with each person, it's more so like a spirit and a body. And I feel like as spirits are, I feel like, are generally energy. And then when you have a body, you feel energy. And I feel like in general, if you feel comfortable with yourself as a spirit in a positive way, there's almost like no wrong you can do once you passed away from your body. Like, that's kind of how I feel. And if there's just kind of leftover stuff that you have inside of you, I feel like that's kind of in general what happens to some people that are in some places, and I feel like people want to place these energies in like a box of, say, like, this is something completely different than the actual person, but I don't feel like these people are different than actual people. I feel like whatever energy they got going on, they don't want to leave it. They don't want to leave yet, wherever there is. And I just feel like there's a lot of disrespect that people have when they go into stuff like paranormal investigations. And I see it all the time, and it just irks me. I'm just like, why are you talking to this thing like it's a puppy?
Right.
Or like, why are you like stirring this up when you don't have to? It's like when you go into places that have extremely negative energy, it's almost like if you go into a place and meet a person that actually murdered somebody, it's like, do you really want to meet this person that like murdered somebody? Like, it's just, I feel like there's a lot of disrespect when it comes to investigations, just for like any kind of evidence that's out there.
Well, it's kind of funny that you explain it that way, because that's sort of how I've been thinking about stuff too. Is, I don't think that it's what mainstream media wants us to think. I don't think it's that, like, okay, Joe died right there, now that he's a ghost. I don't think it's that at all.
Yeah.
I think that if there is anything, maybe even like, because like typically when something's haunted, as people want to call it, there's usually like a tragic event that, like, oh, this is the house where 4 people got murdered or whatever it is. I almost think that there is energy of some sort that we can't see, maybe some people can feel, but it's there and we just can't physically measure it yet. And when there's like a huge traumatic event, right, like whatever it might be, what's a haunted location that is the Stanley Hotel, right? Like, there was
there.
You have?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
I want to know. But like, from my understanding, there was murders and whatnot that went on there. Like, something so tragic like that, and so, like, in the moment, so much emotion flooding out of the people, like, having to deal with that, like, trying to survive, or if they die, like, I think that leaves an imprint that we can't see. Whether that be, like, their energy that they just had to release because of the moment, or maybe if you get killed or murdered, like, something along those lines, like, there's something that always will be there to make the world know of you. I don't know. But I definitely don't think that paranormal is what a lot of mainstream points out. I don't think that it's...
I feel like it was a huge taboo for a long time. And then once people realized that it, like, could make money, they made it into this thing that, like, was just a little too much, basically.
I mean, you watch, like, the popular shows like Ghost Adventures or whatever, and, like, granted, I think in their early stuff, they may have captured some interesting stuff that may have been paranormal, whatever it might be, but you watch the show now and you're like, Oh, so this is
I
100% scripted,
Yeah,
and they
I
just
can't even watch that
yeah.
one anymore specifically because, like, I don't know what it is. Like, the main guy just, like, pisses me off every time, and I'm like, no, anything else but this.
I just laugh at him because he wears like he's kind of like a big dude, like kind of muscular, and he wears like smalls. Just
Oh, right.
wraps his arms.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
know.
like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. Stanley Hotel.
Yeah.
Did you go because of it's Stanley Hotel?
Well, there was a songwriting event I was in that was in this little town, not too far from Estes Park, and so I told myself I was going to go visit the first time I was there, but didn't have time. Last year, I had enough time to go visit, so I was like, heading up. It's kind of a long drive, but like wasn't too far, and like it really stands out. I was worried I wouldn't be able to find it, but I was like, oh, there it is. Once I got into town, and it's just beautiful. Like during the day, it's a gorgeous place.
Right.
You could pay and do like a tour, which is like a lot of money compared, to just walking around and like absorbing the area. And, like, it's just really, it's a really pretty hotel. Like I love it.
Because from my understanding, right, like when you drive up, it's kind of like a twisting canyon, right?
A little bit, yeah.
And then when you hit like I watched some guy vlog doing the drive, which was really cool. But yeah, when he hit like a certain corner or whatever, it was just there. It was just boom. It's we're not missing it.
Basically.
Did you? So you say that you've I can't remember how you worded the energy. Like you can feel the energy in places. Did you feel anything weird there?
It was during the day, so like I can never really feel as much heavy stuff during the day when the sun is out. I usually feel the stuff set in when it's like nighttime, and so I wouldn't say I felt stuff at that moment because I don't know, it was just a pretty happy day for me.
Yeah.
But I could tell, sometimes you can tell when the place is really, really old.
Yeah.
And old places have like stagnant energy. And so I didn't exactly get a chance to go up to the room that everybody talks about because it was only allowed for like the tours and stuff like that. But I could tell like the area I was in was a lot less heavy compared to like if I did actually go upstairs and like visit that room.
So have you been to like an area that maybe have, whether it be haunted or whatever, where you just 100% like, nope, this is not a good area to be in?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did a tour in New Orleans a couple of years ago when I went to visit for like Halloween, and it was on Halloween that we decided to go to like this, since New Orleans is like on the ocean.
Yeah.
Most of the graves are like the tombs, that you see.
Right.
But it's because they can't really bury people underneath because they'll just like
flood.
Yeah. But there's one park that has actually bodies underneath the ground. It's a bunch of like unmarked graves.
Oh.
It was some kind of battle or something where they couldn't like put them in tombs. There was too many bodies, so they just had to bury them like in the park. The day before, which I think was like the 30th, that they did that same tour. Some lady picked up on something in that park that was just malevolent as hell. Like it sunk into her and scared her half to death.
Ooh.
And like the guys were talking about it as we were going up to the park, and they were just like, if you need to like go outside, like we'll understand.
Right.
Like, we have people here that will like take care of you like if anything happens. And so we went there, and like with the stories, like I was expecting like the worst thing in the world getting in there, and we did a couple of things, like walking in backwards and like just kind of as like a protection thing. I think just we walked around the park, and I was with this person who I didn't really know her, but we started talking, and then we realized that we were both from Utah.
Oh, really?
So like we were just talking and like just laughing about random stuff and having a good time. And I guess there's a couple like they suggested that we pull up an EVP thing,
Yeah.
like app on our phone. And she was with her boyfriend, and we were like, trying to talk to like whatever energies were there. But honestly, we were just so in this weird mood where we were just laughing at everything that we couldn't take anything seriously. And so like it should have been like this terrifying experience, but it was just in like giddy mode. Like, we were just like rolling around on the grounds, like probably bodies here, but like we didn't care. It was just really funny. But I told her, I was like, maybe there's like kid spirits here that are just kind of like in our energy, just like
that can make sense, kind of
trying to
make it
absorb
silly
that.
and
Yeah. Later on, we did like a little seance after that experience, and somebody like mentioned kids at some point during the seance, and I was like, I knew it. I told you. So it should have been like this scary, terrifying thing. Like whatever was malevolent there wasn't as active, and then sometimes, from what I've experienced with some people, some spirits connect with you more if like you have like similar energy.
Okay.
So in general, I feel like it was easy for me to connect with any kind of kid energy because I've always been a kid at heart. And,
right.
Like it's easy for me to like connect with children, and so hopefully that was kind of happening.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that was a fun experience.
And that would be cool too, because I mean, maybe in whatever realm they might be in, or whatever it might be, maybe like you coming around and they were like felt comfortable, and maybe that gave them a great day.
Yeah.
However that might work. Mm-hmm. I had a weird experience with meeting people from Utah too, and this is super random, but I went to Disneyland with two of my friends on a whim, and we rode the Ferris wheel. And it was busy, so they put these couple in there, and they were probably like in their 50s, right? Me and my friends, like, we were in our 20s, and we look, we don't look like we're really from around here. Like, why are we even at Disneyland? But anyways, we started talking to them, and they were kind of timid at first. I mean, they like opened up and like, oh yeah, we live in Provo, Utah, and we're like, we live in Bountiful.
Nice.
It's a small world. Yeah, the paranormal stuff is so interesting because, like, I do think that regardless of what people think about life after death, like what opinions are, I think that there's stuff going on now that we just truly don't understand. Mm-hmm. And whether or not we will one day, I don't know. But
I just think it comes down to how open you are as a person to like different perspectives of life.
Right.
When you're more open, it's easier for you to look at stuff and be like, oh, I see why that happened, because like that was the feeling for that day. And
right.
So that's how I kind of look at it. If you want to choose to not be as open as some other people, that be your reality.
Right.
Which is necessarily not anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
But it's just, I feel like everybody has that, or has had those experiences where insight comes in and weird stuff happens that just sink, and you're like, wow, like how did I predict that? It's like everybody has that capability to connect with whatever kind of plane you want to describe it as that has energy and spirit.
Right. Well, and then like we could get into the crazy stuff that people have been talking about with like I didn't read the whole article because it was done by a science journal, which means when you start reading it, like I was like 8 words in, I'm like, those are words I don't know what they mean. That's a lot of big words.
Yeah.
But I guess in theory, they were able to prove that alternate realities could definitely be a possibility. Yeah. And science and math, I'm way above my head. But if that is a reality, I almost wonder sometimes if it's like a wave, right? Because like a lot of life waves, wavelengths, different things like
Mm-hmm.
that. If our reality is waving down, and every once in a while maybe we bump into someone else, and maybe that's what deja vu is, or maybe that's what like a premonition is, or
Yeah.
maybe there could be a bunch of different things, and like maybe that could be part of it. Is
Yeah.
maybe we're feeling energy from an alternate dimension that is happening right now. We just can't perceive it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Possible.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would love to live long enough to be able to get these answers,
Yeah.
but we never know.
That's true.
Could be tomorrow. They're like, oh yeah, there's for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like aliens, as you can see.
Yeah. Aliens are fun.
He's a cool little dude.
Yeah.
I went to the Storm Area 51 thing.
I'll go.
Yeah, which was it's kind of silly, but it's a good time. It ended up just being kind of like a convention type get together in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had some live music, and they had a whole bunch of like food and people selling alien things and whatnot.
That's cool.
People going around memeing everywhere. Like it was kind of fun, but I don't know. I don't say I'm 100%. I don't often say I 100% believe in something, right? I always have like a open mind to
Mm-hmm.
different things, but I'm very close to 100% that there's other life, and
Oh yeah.
I think it's almost arrogant to try and say that there's not, because like
Mm-hmm.
why are we so special when we know that the universe is ever
And this isn't the only universe. There are
Yeah.
universes, so it's just kind of, there has to be something else.
Right.
Yeah. Have you ever watched People of Earth? Did you ever watch
Yeah,
that show?
yeah.
That was like my favorite show.
So
I loved it so much. And then when they canceled it, my heart
Oh.
just broke. It's like, how are we ever gonna find out what happened? But yeah, the subject of aliens kind of makes me go up and down. Not necessarily like up and down. I mean, from comfortable to uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because like it just feels so. With how the media is constructed, and then with how reality is, sometimes it makes me worry if like some of these theories do kind of play in a way that is actually happening.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of like different types of like breeds of aliens. Like from what I've read, that's a really cool concept. I think is cool worth exploring a little bit more. But like sometimes I worry if I dive too deep into like the alien thing that I'll find out something that I don't want to know.
Right.
And then like that like kind of controls everything that's going on right now. And but I definitely don't believe that or it. You know, I definitely believe that there are other things out there that whether we communicated with them or not, like I feel like
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I like the whole. I guess we've been getting steady wavelengths. So I just want to make sure didn't miss anything there. We've been getting steady wavelengths on like a recordable pattern from I think the like 2 galaxies over from us or something like that, and they are able to measure it coming in, and it doesn't seem like it's natural. So I mean, if it could still be just like the space doing weird space stuff, because space only likes to do weird space stuff.
Right.
But if we can measure it and it is at a rate that seems like it's being sent instead of just like occur naturally, it's kind of cool. That could be like hey, is there anybody else out there? And we're over here like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's like this one episode of Stranger Things I think of, where they're with the guy, I forgot his name, with glasses and
I'm drawing a blank. I just finished watching the last season not too long ago
okay.
too. Jeez. I can't think of his name either.
Yeah, I totally forgot. But they get together and, I tell him the whole story, and he gets to a point where he wants to have a drink, and he's like, oh, what can I add to this to make it not so intense? And then he puts the water in it, waters it down, and then that whole theory of like putting the truth out there, but like watering it down.
Yeah.
Like for me, that kind of triggered me. I was like, oh, that could be a thing that's
Oh,
actually happening.
I think that's for sure a thing that happens
Yeah.
because I think there's a lot of stuff that is held from us just to not scare us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's more going on that some people do know that they're just like, it's probably best we just keep this to ourselves and
Yeah.
deal with the burden because I don't know. I don't know what would happen if they came out tomorrow and like, hey, by the way, aliens do exist and they're going to come hang out here in like a week. So, like, you guys are going to have to be cool with that.
I don't know if a bunch of people would believe it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of like, whatever you're saying.
Right.
You know?
That's true. It is hard, especially in today's day and age, to really know if what you're reading is fact or if it's just another article that's trying to get ad money or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
That's true.
You like Stranger Things?
Yeah, I do.
That show's so good. Did you see the trailer for the new season?
I have seen a couple.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I'll give a spoiler alert for anyone. If you haven't seen the last season, pause for a second or fast forward. I don't know. But it was interesting having a new trailer with Harper back.
I was so happy. I was like, hey. I mean, I knew that they wouldn't like just completely get rid of it.
Right.
But like part of me was like, yay.
Because that last season, like, I was like, wow, they really did take a big leap taking him out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm surprised that they would do something like that just because he is a lot of people's favorite character. And,
Well, part of me didn't even want to believe it. It's like
Yeah.
at the end of it, I was like, is this real? Are they really going to try and make us believe it?
so I'm curious to see what they're going to end up doing if maybe, I mean,
Me
I don't
too.
know. I don't really have a guess.
Yeah.
But I hope that,
I've read a couple of like assumptions. Well, I mean, a bunch of people are like, I think the American is, Harper. Some people thought it was, the scientist guy, and so
interesting.
there's that.
I mean, that could make sense. No, I'm excited for it because, I mean,
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. There's a lot of TV that comes out nowadays that I just don't keep up on, but Stranger Things is definitely one of them that I'll watch probably until it stops.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you watched recently that you were like, good?
I don't know if you've seen the Dairy Girls on Netflix.
I haven't.
There's this channel in like UK that's called like E4. They have a bunch of like really cool series that I used to watch. There's this one that is called like My Mad Fat Diary, and it was based on an actual diary of like a plus size girl and kind of her experience growing up in the 90s. And they did like a whole show of it.
Really?
And it was cool because, like, you know how you normally see, like, with the love interest, it's like two, really skinny people. But, like, with this show, the girl, since she was, like, the main person, she falls in love with a thinner guy, and the thinner guy actually falls in love with her. And it gets kind of twisted, like, in the whole series, but it was just, like, it's kind of nice to see that.
Yeah,
when,
something
like,
new.
You've seen so much of, like,
The norm.
the norm. So I think, in general, some of the series that the UK channel has is pretty cool, but
Right.
this show, Dairy Girls, came from that channel, but it's on Netflix right now. It's just, some shows you have to watch every single episode
Oh, yeah.
to like get the whole story, and it's almost exhausting to like keep up with like the story and what they're trying to tell. With this one, it's literally just these girls at this Catholic school, and every episode is just kind of a random thing that happens to them.
Yeah.
You don't really have to like know everything that's going on.
That
You
is
just
nice.
watch it, and it's just, I feel like my mom didn't like it because she doesn't like British comedy. But
Mm.
like, I just thought it was really funny because it reminded me of dumb stuff that I did when I was 13.
Yeah.
And just random dumb stuff happens throughout the entire series. Like, you're just like, yes, this is amazing. They have this one other person because they're an island. One of their main characters has a cousin from England, and I guess everybody hates. All the Irish people hate England or something.
Yeah,
So
something like
they
that.
harass the girl's cousin, and she the guy has to go to their school because they don't want him to go to the guy's school because he'll just get beat up. So he goes to an all girls like Catholic school, and everybody just like calls him like terrible things for the entire series. It's just really funny. But yeah, it's a cute one.
I might have to watch
Watch
that
it.
one. I like British humor because I think I didn't realize I knew that The Office was originally a British show.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that Shameless was originally a British
okay.
show, and I like Office and Shameless. I think they're both really great. And I went back and started watching some of The Office, the UK Office. It's really funny.
I'm not really.
Yeah.
I've actually seen that one.
It's even more dry.
Really?
And there's just something like hilarious about it because they'll tell a joke and then they'll just kind of like just quiet, and you're just like, this is awkward. But it was really good, and they have like a really like famous cast. Like everyone who used to be on the UK Office show is popular now.
Nice.
So,
Cool.
But it definitely took off. I have until about 8 because I have another show coming in at 9. Do you want to close out with another song?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Excited.
Let's see. So this next one, I think every songwriter has a COVID song. This one's of mine, and I actually want to have it be like the title song for the next EP that I'm working on. But I wrote it in a sense like everybody's kind of worried about dying, about the virus, and like it's understandable, you know. But I feel like a lot of the panic and anxiety and worry is mostly inside of us instead of like out there, like how people want to portray it.
Right.
So I kind of compared the virus to an actual storm, and so instead of like the virus being the storm outside, like kind of like we are the storm. And so I kind of leave that up to whoever wants to interpret their own way. But that'll be like the title of the EP is just "We Are the Storm."
I like that.
Yeah. It's like, tell us how to live, they tell us how to be. We never had to say, there's always been defeat. But at least we could all laugh together and suffer in each other's arms. At least we could all be together, even though we wanted so much more. But there's something in the air that makes our reality twist into its knees. And they're telling us to stay inside, keep the rain out of the streets. But we are the storm, we are the storm, we are the storm. Oh, we are the storm, we are the storm, we are the storm. Oh. I can't see you, and I can't breathe you, and I staying sad. Keep the rain out of the streets, but we are the storm. We are the storm. We are the storm. Oh, oh. We are the storm. We are the storm. We are the storm. Oh, oh. I predict a weather change. I predict a weather change in the name of love. In the name of love. See, I predict a weather change. I predict a weather change in the name of love. In the name of love, 'cause we are the storm. We are the storm. We are the storm. Oh, oh. We are the storm. We are the storm. We are the storm. Oh, oh. We are the storm.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's just crazy because, like, you know, I imagine being someone who you love music, and you ever just get that feeling where, like, you get so invested in the song and it's over and you're like, that was, I don't know, it's a moment. It's a moment. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So let's close out by rehashing. So if people want to find you, Mel Soul,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be on Spotify. Are you on iTunes at all?
Yep.
And then what's SoundCloud?
Yep.
On SoundCloud.
Yeah.
And then the Facebook is linked in the description. Now, if you're watching live, and all 4 of those links and any other ones I'll reach out to you before I post will be linked in the descriptions. Go show some love. Go show some support. You can obviously tell that she's talented, like extremely so. And then you're working on your second EP.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any?
Probably be out around the fall.
Around the fall?
Yeah.
Right. You guys heard it here. Around the fall. Thank you again for coming. If there's anything you want to plug at the end or any last words.
Not really.
Well, thank you again
really
for coming out.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. And everyone in chat, thank you guys for being here. We have another show coming on in about an hour if you want to stick around. If not, take care and have a good night.